Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative global cruise personalities. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyovacation.com or enter to win a free cruise for two. Again, www.thejoyovacation.com. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on the air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. I am delighted to welcome Wayne Schell as my guest on the Joy of Cruising podcast. Wayne is the 89-year-old owner of Laguna Del Sol near Sacramento, California, one of the largest, most well-known clothing optional resorts in the United States. He also owns Mira Vista, another clothing optional resort in Tucson, Arizona. I first met Wayne on my other podcast, Lucid Driver Podcast, which is about my dream car, the electric vehicle and one of the fastest cars in the world, Lucid. Wayne is the owner, maybe the eldest in the world, of a Venus Red super luxurious Lucid Air Grand Touring. Wayne mentioned to me, I see you are also into cruising. Well, I have traveled the world and have been on at least 100 cruises. I knew then he would be a future guest on the Joy of Cruising podcast. Their most recent and most upscale cruise. It was on a 550-foot-long cruise ship called the Scenic Eclipse II, a yacht holding only 225 passengers and 225 crew. The cabins are large and well-appointed. There are 2 helicopters on board and a submarine. There are 7 different eating venues. We had the honor of being invited to the chef's table. It was an over-the-top experience with 9 courses, and I lost count of the number of different wines offered. What was the highlight of the cruise? Well, because of the many Bare Necessities cruises we have been on, half the people know me, and I'm a pretty good stand-up comedian. They asked me to do stand-up one evening in the theater, and I got a standing ovation. I am very blessed at my age to still be able to travel and tell jokes without forgetting the punchline. How many total cruises have I been on? I lost count, but it's well over 100. What's the key? Work hard when you're young and live to be old. I'll be 90 in July of 2026. Welcome, Wayne, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
I'm very happy to be with you, Paul, and I just came back from Australia on a great cruise.
Good to virtually see you again. As you know, we had a great conversation already for the Lucid Driver Podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Paul.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
You know, I was amazed by your cruising background, and I'm glad you agreed to be on the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Well, thank you. And I just got back from a cruise. That's what delayed our, our meeting today and get together. And I went to Australia and went on a unbelievable cruise it was called a yacht. It was 550 feet long, and it was called the
Scenic Eclipse II.
The Scenic Eclipse II. And I think it's based out of Australia. We went to Cairns, Australia, and got on the cruise.
Well, hold on about that cruise, because that's the main topic of discussion. But before we discuss that amazing cruise and your amazing cruise life, introduce yourself to the listeners. We have folks joining us from 143 countries. So just tell them, Wayne, where you are from, where you live, your background, anything you would like to share.
Okay, well, to start with, I'm no kid. I'm 89 years old. but I still travel, believe it or not, and I'm in pretty darn good physical condition. I'm so fortunate. I was born in Peru, Illinois in 1936, in the middle of the Depression. Everybody was poor then, that it was around me at least, and we I grew up. Some of my earliest memories of was the Iceman bringing a block of ice around to put in our ice box before we had refrigerators, and he did it in a horse and wagon. So that really tells you how old I am.
Hey, listeners, let me point this out. When I did my podcast with Wayne for my other podcast, Lucid Driver Podcast, Wayne sent me a photo. You know, he just mentioned horse and buggy. He sent me a photo of a horse and buggy sitting next to his brand new luxurious Lucid Air Grand Touring, and he said, "Here's my first car, and here's my last car," or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. That of course it's not quite. I'm not quite that old, but I did buy that stagecoach. I own a resort in Tucson, Arizona, called Mira Vista Resort, and it's a little unusual. It's clothing optional resort, and but the fact that the interesting statistics about it is it has been a going business since 1852. It started out as a stagecoach stop because it had a well and the only place to water the horses. So I bought that stagecoach that Paul's talking about to put there as a reminder of our heritage.
Hey, Wayne, before we start asking you about cruising, say something to the audience about your book.
Well, because I've had such a varied and successful life, I have a lot of things that I wanted to pass on to younger people that you don't get wealthy by winning the lottery or by becoming a star football player or a movie star or any of those things. Those are dream ideas of getting rich because it's like a 1 in a million chance or 1 in 10 million chance of that happening. You get there by working hard and dedicating, doing something you love and sticking with it and not being afraid to take a chance, a little bit of a chance now and then.
So you chronicled your story. Tell us what's the name of it and how we can get our hands on it.
It's called The Great Road of Life, and it's by Wayne Schell, Schell. It's on Amazon, and I would have never been able to write it if 20 years ago on a typewriter. I'm a hunt and peck typist, but with the modern advantages of an iPad, it'll self autocorrect your spelling for you, and my wife autocorrected my grammar for me to make it a much more readable book, and it came together pretty nice, and I think it's a pretty darn good book.
Like you, I recently got off of a cruise. I've been on the ocean for the last 3 weeks, and now I am in the process. You should see my house. It's an absolute mess because I'm in the process of moving. So any podcasts that are after this one, I will record them in my new home, which is I live in North Carolina, as most of the listeners know.
Oh, wow.
And by the end of this week, we will move to Virginia. So I think this is the last. This may be the last podcast I record in North Carolina. So it's been crazy time for me. So I haven't done a lot of things I'd like to do. So let's talk about Wayne, your first cruise. You know, I have a lot of listeners who are aspiring cruisers. So I always ask my guests to talk about their first cruise. So that might set some of the aspiring cruisers at ease and let them know what it's like. And I would say probably 9 out of 10 of my guests get hooked on their first cruise. I don't know if that was the case for you, but talk about it.
Well, that was the opposite for me because my first cruise happened to be on Easter week, which I never thought about having families with tons of kids on the cruise ship. And when you went to the theater to see anything, every seat was taken because everybody saved seats and it was overcrowded. And but it didn't stop me from going on more cruises, and been on many, many good ones. So
that first one was on Carnival. Do you recall which ship?
Oh, it was Princess. I'm sorry, it was not Carnival. It was Princess.
They only had 3 ships.
And they only when they only had 3 ships. That was.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and it was in the Caribbean, of course. And since then, my wife and we've lost count, but I'm sure it's over 100 cruises. And we just came back from our 31st clothing optional cruise. Started going in 1991 with a company called Bare Necessities out of Austin, Texas. And this one was probably the most upscale cruise I've ever been on, believe it or not, as a clothing optional cruise.
Now was on that first cruise you mentioned, the Princess, was that before or after you met your wife?
I believe my wife, it was 1981 or 82 with my wife. It was we weren't married yet, but we just started dating.
Okay.
But I remember that one.
So talk about how you met your wife and how that is directly related to the business you are successful in today.
Well, I was working for a factory, didn't have my own business in 1969, and I had a cab over camper pickup truck, and I could never plan ahead. And even back then, if you wanted to get a campsite on a busy weekend, you'd have to make reservations 6 months in advance to get it. And I could never plan that far ahead. And I saw a television clip on the evening news about going to be National Nude Recreation Day or something. And they were advertising this nudist resort near Corona, California. And out of curiosity, I went out there with my ex-wife. And honestly, I almost turned around and left because at that time, people were treating nudism like it was a religion or a cult.
Mm-hmm.
And but I didn't do it. And I toured the place, and it was a pretty nice place. And I saw a bunch of camping sites. And I said, wow, you got camping here. How far in advance do I have to make a reservation to get a campsite? They said, well, on a busy weekend, you better get here early on Friday afternoon or you won't get one. That's what sold me originally on nudism, because I could find a campsite, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I say I've made this statement a dozen times. The nudity will keep you going for about 3 months. The people will keep you going forever. They're the finest, most genuine friends you'll ever meet. They have no ulterior motives other than they just want to socialize and be your friend. And we've met friends from all over the world. And every time we get on one of these cruises, we haven't seen people for a year or more. And it's like they're your relatives. They come up and hug you and fill you in on what they've been doing. It's just a different life than people realize. Anyway, after going there for several years, I divorced my first wife, and I was single for many years. And in 1980, I was out there, and my wife and her sister used to come out. They were teenagers, and their parents quit going because of medical reasons. And I just sat by them at the pool for about over a year and just socialized with them, and found out that I had a lot in common with my current wife. And that's how we ended up getting together. And It's worked well now for 45 years.
So at that time, did you have any inkling that you would buy into that business?
I did not, and we went up to a place in Sacramento. It was called Rawhide Ranch at the time, 1984. Remember the LA Olympics were going on?
Sure.
And I had my fifth wheel camping fifth wheel trailer, pulled it up there, and there was a convention going on there, and I'd heard it was for sale. Had no intention of buying it, but when I heard all the terms and what they were asking for it, it was just too good a deal to pass up. And I thought, when I bought it, I thought, this isn't a religion or a cult. This is a form of recreation, and they're going about it all wrong. The first thing you should do is make a very nice entry and go first class and make it a place that people feel comfortable the minute they drive up to the gate. And we started doing that and started treating people with respect, and our clientele got to be wonderful, and other nudist resorts saw that our success, and they started copying us and doing the things we did. And sure enough, it's a much more desirable place to be now, and the people are wonderful.
So that was the birth of Laguna Del Sol.
Correct. I changed the name from Rawhide Ranch to Laguna Del Sol in 1990, 5 years. One of the stipulations, because the price was so cheap on the purchase of it, is that I couldn't change the name for 5 years. But 5 years and 1 day later, we changed the name. Just rawhide and nudism just doesn't mix very good.
So right around that same time, getting back to cruising, as you mentioned earlier, a cruise travel business was formed called Bare Necessities, which you cruised on many times.
Correct.
So talk about Bare Necessities and how it influenced and affected your business.
Well, it became a very symbiotic relationship, because when they first started out, they had no clientele, and they came out and set up booths at our resorts. And the one in Sacramento, we have about 1,500 members, and the one in Tucson, 550 members. Okay. And it's a good place to meet the clientele if you want a clothing optional resort, is at a nudist resort, correct? So
right.
Anyway, they started out small, and they had a hard time booking cruise ships at the beginning because they were nervous of having a bunch of nude people running around. Of course, you're dressed when you go to dining rooms and so forth for dinner, and that you wear clothes. And I'm not a hardcore nudist that I got to be naked all the time. I've got to have pockets to carry things in. And anyway, we go on these cruises, and everybody has a lot of camaraderie. And over the years, I've been a big joke teller for my whole life. And I started, they have talent shows on these cruises, especially the clothing optional ones. And I'd like to do comedy. And of course, there's always 5 or 6 other comedians on board that want to get up there, and they only take one. I beat them all out every time, and I get a standing ovation every time. I guess I should have been a comedian, because I do pretty good at it.
So the growth of your business and the growth of Bare Necessities was kind of in parallel.
Yes, and it was. And that place we bought in Tucson, Arizona, we bought it in 2006. And a lot of the people, this is probably the most upscale nudist resort in the world. It's very, very nice. We built beautiful condos. And a lot of the cruisers that we met from all over the world, they started coming there. And of course, when COVID hit, it was probably one of the one of the few places that COVID benefited us. Not at first. I mean, we had to shut down our restaurant and our bar and stuff, but we never closed down the pool area, which was open. And people that were doing cruises and traveling overseas, they couldn't do it, but they could drive to our clothing optional resort in Tucson called Mira Vista Resort. And lo and behold, this place is beautiful. I'm coming back. Our business almost doubled during COVID period. So no complaints about COVID hitting us.
So, how many times do you suppose you sailed with Bare Necessities?
Well, we just got a plaque that said 31 cruises. I don't know if this was the 32nd or this was the 31st, but that's a lot of cruises with one thing. And this cruise is very upscale. It was over $1,000 per day per person.
Wow. So that's the yacht cruise, the luxury yacht cruise.
Correct. They had 2 helicopters on this ship.
Give us all the details. First of all, what was the itinerary?
Well, we sailed out of Cairns and we went to the islands of Vanuatu, which is very primitive, and New Caledonia. And about the only city that's modern in the whole country of Vanuatu is the capital. And it's got maybe 3,000 people and paved roads. And we went on several islands that the roads were just ruts in the ground, paths on the ground. And one has a volcano that's constantly erupting. And they take you up to this volcano on the back of pickup trucks, and you sit on a board. And it was a rough ride, but this volcano has been erupting constantly for, I don't know, hundreds of years. But you can stand right on the edge of the volcano and watch these big balls of fire come flying out of the volcano. Pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think you mentioned it earlier, but refresh my memory. How many were on the yacht cruise?
About 200 people, and they have 7 different dining venues. I mean, really upscale. You should get something for all the money you're paying. Very nice cabins with walk-in closets and nice spacious rooms, of course. But we were invited to the chef's table one night, and I think it held 8 or 9 people. And they serve you 9 courses of different things. Nothing big, of course, just little samples. And we lost track of how many different kinds of wine they serve you. But that's quite a dining experience. Nothing I'd want to do all the time. And, I come from a simple family and a simple life. My favorite dish on the ship was chicken pot pie.
Well, that sounds doesn't sound like a luxury yacht cruise dish.
No, but it was good. But you know what? I don't need all the fancy food, just good food. That's it.
So were all the people on the what was it called?
The Scenic Eclipse II.
Scenic Eclipse. Were all the people on there accustomed to the kind of cruises Bare Necessities does, or did you have any newbies?
We met a couple different couples that just wanted that itinerary, and they said, well, the nudity is no big deal, and it was clothing optional, so they went anyway, and it said they had more fun on it than most cruises.
Okay, so there were some people who were on the cruise who weren't necessarily nudists.
Right. I wouldn't think there's not much more than a handful at the most.
Okay.
Wasn't a lot, but we did meet some people that weren't. Yeah.
Were the passengers mostly U.S. or was there a mix?
No, from there was A lot of Australians, people from Great Britain, Scotland, Germany, all over the world, and it's a lot of them we know from previous cruises, of
Okay.
course. So that made it nice. But yeah, it's a great thing, great thing to do.
How was it diverse in terms of age?
Yeah, there was quite a few. I was surprised. There were quite a few people in their probably late 20s, early 30s on board, and one gentleman from South Africa, and he had online gambling business in South Africa, and he had one of the suites, so I guess the business is pretty good.
So I would think most of your Bare Necessities cruises or just cruises in general are on traditional ocean vessels. Contrast a yacht cruise with a regular cruise ship.
Well, it's just more spacious. You can imagine it's 550 feet long, and I think the maximum capacity is about 225 people. So most ships 550 feet long, you'll have 600 people on them. Am I correct?
Well, even a whole lot more. Depend. There's
sure.
ships now that have over 5,000 people on them.
Oh, yeah. I think the tops is like 10 or 12,000 now. It's great and huge. But I don't like them that big. 600 to 800 passengers is ideal.
Okay, so you typically travel small cruise ships then.
I prefer them. You don't always get them because I've got a cruise scheduled in January that's I think it holds about 2,200 people. Not huge, but it's on the Coral Princess.
Okay.
And that one is a 4-month cruise. It leaves out of Los Angeles and returns to Los Angeles 4 months later.
Wow.
And it does the whole Pacific.
Wow. Maybe we'll get you back on to talk about that one.
Yeah.
But on Scenic Eclipse, so you had obviously it was smaller amount of people than
Correct.
than you normally are used to. What kind of activities does Bare Necessity to have games and is there a cruise director and all of that?
They have a group called the Crafty Cruisers that they've been so successful with them. They're nudists, and they bring craft stuff, and women make bracelets and necklaces and little purses, clutch purses, and you can't imagine the creativity of these people. And it's very popular especially on sea days, of course. And they of course, the cruise line had daily trivia, which is popular on every cruise ship. And the entertainment was limited to the cruise director and assistant cruise director, but they were very talented singers. And the assistant cruise director liked to tell jokes, and I challenged him to a joke off. And he backed down, but they did ask me to do a 15-minute stint doing comedy one night, and it was fun. I had a good time doing it.
Now, did you do? Was it given the setting? Was it risque comedy or not really?
I have a bunch of jokes that I could tell to my children or grandchildren, and love it. And my nieces and grandnieces, and I'll give you an example of some of my humor. I told my 8-year-old grandniece, I says, Kennedy, have you ever been to the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland? She says, oh, yes. And it was very scary. I said, well, Aunt Suzanne and I went to an actual haunted castle in Europe that was over 1,000 years old. I said, it was so scary that we had to have a personal tour guide to take us around. And we were walking around with this tour guide, and I said, it was scary, all right. I asked the tour guide, I says, have you ever seen a ghost? He says, not since I've been working here. I said, well, how long have you worked here? He said, well, a little over 700 years. So that's my humor, okay? That's a good sample.
So now at your land resorts, do you get comedians and do they tell risque jokes or?
Not much because we're family oriented. We have kids there and stuff. We have an annual talent show at our place in Sacramento. And when we bought it in 1984, it had already been doing it for about 12 or 15 years. And before we bought the place, they had a stage. That's one of the few things that's still there from when we originally bought it. And it has like a natural amphitheater grassy area.
Uh-huh.
And it's always been very popular. And of course, I get to do my comedy there. I don't know if it's because I'm good or because I'm the owner.
I didn't know. Okay, I just learned something. So I didn't know that it was your land resorts were family friendly.
Oh, yes. We don't tolerate any hanky-pank at all. There's no sex involved. It's
Okay.
strictly recreational. And we have events like we have an event called Newtstock in Sacramento a couple of weeks after Labor Day, and it has 6 bands, and it draws a lot of people.
Wow. So getting back to family, so are there a lot of families?
Yeah, over the years, we've got third and fourth generation people coming there. They grew up, and their parents grew up there, and their grandparents grew up.
Wow.
We've owned the place for 41 years now, and we've had lost a lot of our members and good friends. They passed away. In 41 years, a lot happens, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So getting back to on the water, do you have what's your favorite cruise line?
Oh, I like Regent a lot. Regent I'd say the cabins were just as good as this yacht cruise that we just came off of. And they have about 600 and some people, which is a size I like. And that price is a little less than that. It's pricey, but you can get some super good deals on repositioning cruises. For our 40th wedding anniversary 2 years ago, we took one out of Vancouver, British Columbia to Japan and flew home from Japan. I think it was a 16 or 17-day cruise, and we got it for like $3,400 each, which is not bad price.
Yeah.
And it was very nice. And the people, we found the people very friendly. And I've heard people say it's stuffy, but we didn't find it stuffy at all.
Yeah, we had Regent on the show about maybe two months ago. What other lines do you like?
I like Windstar. Windstar's a good cruise line. We've been on their sailing ships and the regular ones. Probably, I would say maybe 10 Windstar cruises. Always had good food, and the people were friendly, and it was really great.
Yep, we've also had Windstar on the show not that long ago. What have been your most memorable cruises ever?
Most memorable cruise? Gosh.
Or it doesn't have to be one.
It
doesn't have to be one. What's your biggest memories?
Well, we took a cruise around Iceland right before COVID, 2019, on Windstar, and one of their, not the sailing ship, and we really enjoyed that. That was because it's just a fascinating country to go to. Let's see. Last January we did Regent. We flew to Cape Town, South Africa, and went up the west coast of Africa to Namibia, which is nothing but desert. And we crossed the Atlantic to and ended up in Rio de Janeiro and spent a few days in Rio and flew home from there.
Wow, that sounds luxurious.
Yeah, and that again was a repositioning cruise. The only bad thing about it is we particularly wanted to go to Saint Helena, where that's where Napoleon is buried,
Mm-hmm.
and the sea was too rough, and we couldn't get off the ship there. And it's in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Atlantic, and that would have been a highlight of the trip, and we couldn't get off. So that happens. There's nothing you can do about it.
Now, you mentioned your cruise coming up in January. What, any other cruises planned for the future?
No, I'd say that's a pretty big one. And, I'm going to be 90 next July, and I don't know how much longer I'll be able to get on a plane and walk miles to get to the plane and all the things it takes to get there. Well, that's one of the things that's so appealing about this cruise. You get on the ship 10 miles from my house and get off the ship 10 miles from the house.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So this week is Thanksgiving a big event at the resorts?
I just saw that they're going to have a lot of the residents. We have about 100 residents probably at each resort, and they're a close-knit community, and a lot of them are going to get together and have Thanksgiving together in our clubhouses and enjoy their time, and that's good.
Well, I know how busy you are, Wayne, as a multiple business owner. So we're not going to hold you too long. But before we let you go, we usually ask our guests some light or fun cruise questions. So I have a couple for you. First question, this is a softball question. How do you spend your me time?
My what time?
Me time.
Me time. Oh, I try to keep my mind sharp. I'm a great Sudoku player. I play Sudoku with, when I can't get online, and I'm also probably one of the best solitaire players in the world. I really am. I get quicker solves and fewer moves than anybody. And there's tens of thousands of us worldwide, and if you look on solitaire online, you'll see my name in the top 10 on hundreds and hundreds of puzzles.
Now, did you talk about that in your book?
I did not. But you wanted to know what I do for my me time, so I tell you that. Okay.
Yep. Well, you should write a sequel.
Well, it's been 5 years since I wrote that book, so lots happened in 5 years, COVID and all that, and like the story about our business doubling. I didn't tell that in the book because it didn't happen.
And you bought the best car in the world?
Yeah, I got Lucid. I just posted something this morning in Lucid. Do you look at the Lucid Facebook groups?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I've come up with many improvements on Lucid, and I just posted one back in August when they came up with the hands-free driving. They have glitches in it, like everything, and I take it as when I bought the car, I was one of the first ones to get it. I've had mine for 3.5 years now and 80,000 miles, and there's at least a dozen improvements on the Lucid that came from me. And
well, that's more material for your follow-up book. I think you should do it, Wayne.
Well, I've also bought a lot of Lucid stock, and like other people, I haven't sold it. I still believe Lucid is the finest car in the world, and I just think that they just need some more help. And I volunteered this morning to help them free of charge. I don't want any money. Just hope that I can. I had a lot of shares of their stock, and I'm upside down a considerable amount of money, and I'd just like to see the car company survive and do well, and that's all I want from it. So I gave them some suggestions, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, question number 2. What's your favorite cruise drink and cruise food?
Well, it all depends. On a hot day, my favorite drink is a cold beer, and at dinner, I'm not a big drinker. I usually have one glass of red wine, and my favorite red wine nobody ever has, and it's only $6 a bottle because I buy it at Costco. It's called Menage a Trois, red blend wine, and I'm a creature of habit. I've been drinking the same coffee for 52 years, and I've been drinking the same wine for about 10. But that's what I do.
I'm not a wine connoisseur, but I kid you not, I have a bottle of Menage a Trois.
Yeah. Do you like it?
Well, it's unopened.
Well, you're in for a treat because it's one of the few wines that has no bitter aftertaste, and that's what I like about it. And my coffee, I carry it with me even when I go on cruises. I take it with me, and I'm afraid they'll run out of it. And I got about a 5-year supply on hand, and hopefully, enough till I die. And every time I buy another case, so a case lasts me about a year. My wife says, "What are you doing? You got 4 years." I says, "You ought to be happy. That thing means I think I'm going to live another year longer."
Okay. What about cruise food? You didn't say that.
Cruise food, I eat a lot of fish. I think it's good for you. Was a big steak eater when I was younger, but now I don't know. I've lost my taste for red meat. I probably have it once every 2 or 3 weeks, and that's about it. Not big portions either.
Okay. Next question. What's your most wonderful or memorable or funniest or even most embarrassing cruise or port experience?
Not cruising. I've led a great life. One night I came home from work, and this true story, 1984, Suzanne, my wife, we were only married about 6 months. And she says, the City of Hope is having a charity auction on the radio, and they're auctioning off cruises to Hawaii and trips to Hawaii and everything, and they're going very reasonable. You can afford it. You should bid on one. Me being a smart aleck, I said, well, if they had a date with Dolly Parton, I might do it. She says, I think there is a date with Dolly Parton. I says, really? She looks up and yeah. And she says, it's at 5:00. It was 20 to 5. She says, you should get online and bid on it. So I got online on it called, they only had landlines in 84. And they had cell phones, but I had one, but it was like a big suitcase at those days. Anyway, I called in. They take all your information in case you win. And the bidding started out at about $1,000. And at about $1,800, everybody dropped out but me and this one other person. It went up to $3,200 for a date with Dolly Parton. I finally said, let the other person have it. I give up, So I hung up, and of course they had my phone number in case I won. About 20 minutes later, I get a call back, and they says, Dolly was so thrilled that she could raise that much money for the City of Hope. If you'll match it, she'll do it for both of you. Well, at least I knew what it was going to cost me. So I said, yeah, it's a deal. I'll do it. So for $3,200, and I had a choice of several things to choose from. And one of them was she just finished the movie with Sylvester Stallone called Rhinestone. And they were putting the music to the movie at Fox Movie Studios. And I chose that. And I took Suzanne with me. So my date turned out to be a threesome with my wife, but I didn't mind at all. She was my new bride. And we watched Dolly sing and put the music to the thing for about 2 hours. And then we went into the restaurant, and they had a big table reserved for Miss Parton on the thing, and all the movie stars were coming up saying, hi, Dolly, how you doing, and everything. And during the course of the meal, somebody mentioned that it was April 17th. I said, oh my gosh, today's my brother's birthday in Florida. I totally forgot. Would you please excuse me? I got to call my brother Dick and wish him happy birthday. And like I said, I had a big suitcase cell phone. And Dolly says, shoot, would you like me to sing happy birthday to your brother? I said, would you do that, Dolly? She said, oh, shoot, yeah, I'll do it. So I called my brother Dick up in Florida. I said, happy birthday, Dick. I got somebody here who wants to sing happy birthday to you. He said, who? I said, well, I'm going to let you figure it out. So she gets on and sings the whole birthday song to him, gives me back the phone. He said, who was that? I said, who did it sound like? It sounded just like Dolly Parton. I said, it was. He said, you better take a lot of pictures because nobody's ever going to believe me. So that was a pretty memorable experience. And she is a sweetheart, by the way.
Well, for the listeners, I can vouch for that story because, as I said, I had Wayne on my other podcast, and to promote the podcast, just as I do for the Joy of Cruising podcast, I had photos. So I had quite a few photos of Dolly Parton. So you'll see those on Facebook and Instagram because I'll ask Wayne to send them to me again. Wayne, one more question, then I'll let you go. I call this the oddball question because it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with cruising. So you have a large following, and welcome to the many Wayne Schell fans and friends listening. We hope your fans have enjoyed what they've heard at the Joy of Cruising podcast, and will come back for our future episodes. Wayne, share one thing that my listeners and your fans and friends don't know about Wayne.
Okay, well, I told you I'm now I love to do comedy on the cruise ships. Well, when I was a young man, my dream was to be a magician. So I practiced a bunch of magic tricks and I got pretty good. So my dream was to become a magician on a cruise ship, okay? So it's one problem. No cruise ship would hire me because I only knew enough magic tricks to do one show, and they didn't want me repeating the same show over and over on the cruises. I finally found the job of my dreams, fly-by-night cruise lines in Miami, Florida. They did 3-day cruises. I only had to do one magic act per cruise. So different people seeing the same things over and over again, but not the same people. So I'm in heaven doing my magic act one day per cruise. One night the captain came in with a parrot on his shoulder. His parrot absolutely fell in love with my magic acts. And he wanted to be there every show over and over and over again. Well, as luck would have it, he began to catch on how I did my magic tricks and started shouting out to the audience how I did them. I began hating that parrot, right? Well, I couldn't say anything because it belonged to the captain, right? Well, wouldn't you know, we hit a reef one day and the ship sank. There's only 2 survivors, me and that darn parrot. We're in this rubber life raft for 3 days, staring at each other, back and forth, neither one of us saying a word to one another. Finally, the parrot said to me, he says, okay, I give up. What you do with the damn ship? Okay.
Wayne,
I'll leave you with a joke.
Wayne, that was great, and I just as I did with the Lucid Driver podcast, enjoyed having you on, and I'm dead serious. I would like to have you back on in the spring to talk about that amazing, was it 4-month cruise?
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that offline, and it's been wonderful having you. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, and looking forward to talking to you again.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99, can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.